It's a good thing I wore my Janchi shirt then.
Well, it's a bad thing that I wore a white T-shirt because I'm not a part of the black T-shirt club, like an idiot.
Hey.
Like an idiot. We sent out a message.
There was
yin and yang, man, yin and yang.
There was a memo. Did you not see it?
Yin,
I left it on the printer.
Yeah, you didn't get that printer memo?
You didn't get that memo?
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Janchi Show. We are back again for another week, a really exciting week, an episode where we're just going to talk to ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean Patrick, KJ, and Nathan. I am Patrick, one of those co-hosts. Nathan, KJ, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
I'm feeling chilly. It's finally under 100 to stay, hopefully, in Texas, and that feels amazing. So, yeah, feeling good.
That's nice. We've had some good fall weather here in Indiana this week. I'm really afraid that it's about to spike next week. I think that's supposed to be everywhere, though. So
Sure.
Is Indiana fall
for
weather
you
like
guys.
80s, though?
It's actually like today and yesterday it's been in the 70s. So,
Whoa.
and it didn't get to the 70s till like 2. So it's been like, mid to high 60s. Been enjoying that.
Pants weather.
Yeah, I saw that graph of the middle of the country being in extreme temperatures coming up. So I'll send cool vibes your way.
Is it cool there in Denver?
It'll not now, but it will be. It's going to be decent 80s next week. But right now it's like 95 today. So today was a little warm.
Oh, so it's still hot for you.
The weather
So
channel?
yesterday and today was the hottest of the week. Yeah. So, but
What's decent 80s? Is that like low 80s?
I say
Mid
85. I'm tolerable at 85 to 75. That would be ideal for me. Yeah.
Going
Still
down
go
the
out.
scale.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going like if I'm going like ultimate temperatures, I want it to be like 70 or 69, but it's just me.
70 or 69, a perfect
Yeah.
indoor temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of indoor temperatures, Nathan, what does Janchi mean for our new listeners?
It's not a real transition.
Yeah, it is.
It's means to feast, which I guess we would be feasting indoors. And we are celebrating and feasting on our adoption, heritage, stories, backgrounds, discoveries, and other people's stories and culture, all that good stuff. And then an actual snack or drink at the end of the show. Something that hopefully we've never had before.
Someone on Instagram reached out to us and posted, tagged us in their story, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's Janchi noodles," but the translation said banquet noodles, and I was like, "I've never seen banquet noodles. I've only ever seen it translated as like feast noodles." But I guess that makes sense from like an adjective perspective. But from my understanding, and also rolling 140 episodes deep, it means to feast. Dang it.
To feast. I mean, a banquet is kind of like a feast. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like adjacent to the definition.
But it doesn't feel as good to say banquet heyo. Or like the
I don't know. We
banquet.
should try it at the end of the episode. We'll
the
try
banquet boys is not bad.
it. Ooh, I
But
do
it's not
like
the
that.
it's not the same as
Banquet
like the
boys.
yeah. It's not the same as feasty boys. It doesn't have the
That's
same
true.
fun pun,
So, yes.
Let's just try it
there
out
is
for 1 week. Let's be the banquet boys, banquet heyo, all of that. See what happens.
Yeah, there is a website that does say it's British, but it does say that the Korean word janchi means feast or banquet.
What do the British know?
As in the noodle dish, janchi guksu.
Are there even any Koreans in Britain or the UK?
I doubt it. I don't think any
so.
Koreans have left the peninsula, honestly.
Oh,
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
Definitely
they're-
not 200,000 of them.
Definitely no. They've definitely not been shipped out.
Yeah,
Hey,
definitely
if
not
there
sent
are
out.
some Koreans in Britain, well, I'm sure there are, I would be very jealous of their accents. Come on, how cool would that be to be a Korean with a British accent? I think that'd be awesome. Shout out to you guys out there.
Shout out.
Come on, leave us a
Forget you,
voicemail. I want to hear
Korean
it.
Australians, just the British
That's
ones.
true too. I love that.
Just
also.
the British ones.
Just
no
the
British
Brits
and Australia.
Just the
Fine.
Brits. I was going to say something else. Oh, we were talking about whether we
The
had
Weather
had
Channel?
Janchi noodles before.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that we had them
What?
after our first live show.
No.
When we were doing the debrief. I'm almost 100% positive.
No, it was cold noodles, breakfast noodles is whatever that was.
I thought after the show,
Are
you're
Janchi
talking-
noodles not cold like Nameyoung?
I don't know I've never had them. But
I could have swore that we had them. I could have swore.
I'm saying after, maybe this is the morning of the show.
Oh, wait.
But I thought after the show we had hangover soup.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I could have
Hangover
swore one
soup
of the dishes
is
was
not
the Janchi noodles. I didn't say that it was.
No.
Jerry tried to find them, but I think he couldn't find them, and he went for hangover soup instead.
Okay, that makes sense.
So,
okay, that might make more sense.
That's why he's not our producer anymore. I'm just kidding.
I mean, looking at the soup, it looks very similar to the tukuk, but with like more vegetables in it, I guess, and some shredded
fiber,
cheese,
probably
strips
mozzarella.
of beef, eggs,
all the rage in
vegetables.
Korea.
I mean, it sounds very similar. So
I want shredded pepper jack, please.
But noodles instead of rice cake noodles. So I don't know. I will look for it though. Hey, maybe we'll have it next week.
Maybe we will.
Or this week. I guess this week.
This weekend.
Oh,
yes. Let's be real. It's this weekend.
This weekend, we're going to be live in LA one more time.
One more time.
One last time.
One more time. Sorry to everybody who wants us to do our live show in another place that's not LA.
I know. Sorry.
We're just keeping it circular. Going back to the same place.
It was pretty unexpected, I think, this particular year.
It was.
Because we didn't really have any plans for a live show, and we're notoriously a hot mess on this show. But then, I don't even know what the contact was, but we're heading out to BioThe LA, which I think it might be the very first time, maybe second time we've talked about it live on the podcast. But yeah, we get to be the keynote speaker for them, which is really exciting. And so we're going to do a live show on Saturday night, which we will probably release later on in life. Maybe not. Maybe we'll just keep it as a had to be there. And if you weren't there, it sucks.
If you weren't there, $5 to access that content.
Buy me a coffee.
Buy us a coffee.
We'll pray about it.
We'll have some prayers about it.
But I am looking forward to it. I mean, I'm always looking forward to going back to LA, but for this one, I think it's going to be, especially good just because there's, we have a topic, we have people that we're going to meet, people that we know. I mean, it's going to be a good time.
This one's going to be good because we have a topic to talk about.
Year 3, we don't feel like a hot mess. We're just like a slightly warm mess.
We figured it out.
I mean, discussing the process with them, aka SF and everything, to figure out what we were going to do. I think we organized it a little bit better, kind of came together on it versus, not that our shows in Dallas and LA previous years were a mess. I think they went great. We had interviews and things like that, but it's a little different because we have to plan it with another organization, and I like that. So
we could have not planned it and made them just go with it how we normally do. We're going to wing it.
I feel much more comfortable going into it this way, though. So
I feel same comfort, same comfort level,
same comfort. That's because I planned last year. That's why.
Yeah, Nathan's probably.
You didn't plan the topic. What did we even talk about last year? Oh, we had
last year we talked about
Stephanie.
Yeah, and then
I just came back from Korea tonight. Literally the week before.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Fucking Korea.
So
freaking miss me with that business.
The first time.
Both times now. That's for another show probably. What were we going to talk about today?
Well, today I thought it would be fun to talk about who taught us to be Asian (American). Because I think one of the things that I've been thinking about, certainly leading up to our BioThe LA event, but also just in life, as we've talked about exploring the identities and what makes us who we are, I think something that we've not really explicitly talked about on the show is who taught us to be American, who or what taught us to be Asian, who or what taught us to be Asian American. And I think we're still kind of figuring out what it means to be Korean and Korean American. But I just thought, obviously we all have PhDs in what it means to be American, but are we able to articulate that? And how, what were those key influences maybe early in life and then halfway between early and then now that continue to influence and shape who we are and who we want to be?
Nathan, this is not an ageist question or start, but you've been here the longest.
It is
You
an
have the
age
most
aware.
experience.
Yeah, it's an
You
age
have the most
aware
experience in
We're not ageist on
this
the
life.
show. Okay?
We're not ageist on the show.
But
We're
we are
age
age
aware.
aware.
Yes. I think you should kick us off. I want to hear kind of what your experiences have been with this particular topic.
Well, I jokingly said media and TV first to be American, but I definitely feel like a lot of my influence came from watching TV and stuff back in Oklahoma. But and it's my parents. I mean, honestly, my parents were very, I think, well-rounded in and involved in everything from I don't know, just things going on in the media to normal everyday life and stuff. So they just taught me the routine of what I felt was, go to work, make money, eventually get married, have a family, a very kind of all-American kind of style of being raised. Go to church for a little while too. But
did you hear a lot about the American dream?
Yeah. I mean, I think from the very beginning, I actually did, as far as like, make money or capitalism or whatnot, I did want to, have a business of my own. And I think I was very entrepreneurial when I was in high school already. I actually helped out a lot with our high school or one of our schools.
AV club.
No, it was like a candy store.
What? Not what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I know. I sold candy. I don't know. Things like that. Like I was involved in that kind of a thing. I mean, later in life, I looked into, stock market, buying houses, things like that. I actually got into things that made money. And of course I had a
pyramid schemes.
Small job. Yeah. Things like that.
You didn't make any money selling candy?
I did a little bit, but I mean, it wasn't for me. It was for the school.
I got a lot of questions now about the candy.
Oh my gosh, it's just candy, guys. Not that important, but yeah. And then I definitely looked into it, and I mean, I went to college just to do computers because I thought computers was the future, and I liked computers. But then eventually, that actually transferred over to business administration, and so I again went into business and eventually wanted to start my own business, and luckily did. But, and then of course that goes into the next part of this question, what brought me out to California. And then, then I started my own business, but I think California is my next answer. That taught me to be Asian. I know that's not a person.
So before you go on, what I'm hearing is you're deeply a business bro, which I don't think I realized, but that's just good to know just from me.
Yes.
But you said something that I thought was really interesting because you said like, my parents or whomever taught me to be American. They like raised me to be, but like you specifically used the phrase all American. Can you explain what that means to you? Like, what is the prototypical all American person for you?
Eating a lot of steak and baked potatoes.
That sounds deeply Oklahoman. Okay. Steak and taters.
Steak and taters. No, I mean, just in general, the food that I ate for sure. I mean, I didn't really have much variety. I mean, we did go to a few Chinese restaurants and stuff, but I never had sushi. I never had Thai food, or I had some Indian food, but none of that I had until college. Yeah, everything was always either Mexican, pizza, American, or style food, burgers and stuff. Brahms, lots of Brahms. But I mean, again, it could have been the times too. There wasn't much access to the
Brahms,
different ethnic foods in Oklahoma, but now there is. Now that I've actually gone back to Oklahoma, there's a lot more variety than when I was raised with, for sure. So it made it just have been accessibility, but
yeah.
I mean, I think those are like the values of just, like I said, the family values, the stuff that I ate, the stuff that I did. I feel like all the things that I did growing up are things I would categorize as being kind of American.
Like table tennis? Selling candy? What are we talking about?
Table tennis, sure. Playing
Did
a
you
sport.
have a lemonade
stand? Yes.
Okay, that feels deeply all American.
I was in Boy Scouts.
Okay.
I was also in Boy Scouts.
Right, that's definitely all American.
Yeah.
I played tennis. I played soccer.
Neither of those strike me as particularly like deeply American. If you said like football, basketball, I've been like, all right, but
I was never big enough for those two.
All right, fair.
That might have been just
You're like, I don't want to die.
Yeah. But then, yes, moving on to California, I think that's really what taught me to be more Asian, because I had a lot more, accessibility to those things that I kind of always wanted to explore, maybe just didn't know I wanted to explore it. And so, I started having more friends that were Asian. Of course, I met my wife, and I would say she really was the next part of that question, helping me to become Asian American, because she's fourth generation. And so she had that already kind of ingrained with being both kind of Asian American already. And so she did things that were American, but also things that were Asian, and, opened my eyes to a lot of things, like taking me to, Japanese festivals or Buddhist temple, that her grandmother went to. Introducing me. The first time I ever had pho was actually with her. Going back to food and stuff, but it's like
always comes back to food with you.
It always comes back to food for me.
I see why we do that final bit of the show.
Could do
I
a
didn't
whole
realize that your
show
wife
on
was
food.
fourth generation.
Yeah, fourth generation Japanese, third generation Chinese. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
But so I think that's really where I started developing all of those things that made me feel more Asian American. And then I guess if you're going to ask the final part of that, which is the Korean American part of it, that would be kind of when I started. That's probably about when I met Jerry. Actually, is when I started helping out with collaboration, and it was like a talent show, Asian talent show. And
what part of collaboration is a pun on Asian? Is it?
It's
just the Asian part, right?
No,
Does it start with a K?
It's like collaboration spelled the same way, but with a K.
What? Yeah. Okay. Is it a
It's
Korean
not
thing?
Asian. There's no Asian.
It started out. Yeah.
It's just the Asian people, not in the word.
Okay. Sure. I don't know. If it's not a pun, is it really Asian?
But it was an Asian. It was started by an Asian American
Korean.
It was it's Korean, PK, and he, this organization had a lot of, I'd say a lot more Koreans that helped out with it at the time, and it grew a lot. It went all over the country, actually, in different spots. But yeah, I helped out with that one for like 4 years, and I learned a little bit from that, and that's actually how I found out about AKA Dan's documentary, was from somebody in that group that invited me to that. And so, started getting involved that way, and that's when I started exploring Koreanness.
Right on.
Do you feel like those two things blended, like when you started to like hang out with Allison and explore a little bit more of your Asianness? Do you feel like your American sides and your Asian sides blended in a way, or do you feel like they kind of just bumped and you would navigate one and the other?
No, I definitely felt they blended, just because she was also kind of blended. So I wanted to, have more similarities.
Sure.
And so I would do more things that, we both enjoyed, that felt like, it was just kind of a natural progression.
Line dancing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is for her being fourth and third generation respectively, like she'd be really fluent in that like Asian American, like that blended space already.
True.
You know what I mean? Whereas I feel like for certainly for first gen, maybe second gen, like they're still kind of figuring it out. But like by that point, there is a fluency, because you're just like, I don't know, it just kind of is the backdrop that we live in. So yeah. So then it is like line dancing.
It's all
There's a structure and form to it. I get it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so Patrick, what about you? Maybe we can start at because I'm curious what All American means for you, and where did you get those ideas from?
Sure. I think All American to me, it means family values for sure. I grew up in, I think we all kind of did, but I grew up in really small rural Indiana. And so
we did grow up in rural Indiana.
We did all grow up in rural, but really small town space community. And I felt like when you think about All American, when I think about All American, I think about that. I think about predominantly white, to be honest, but you play football, you go to work, you watch sports, you go to church on Sunday, you eat family or you eat dinner with your family and then you eat
Casual
your family
cannibalism.
afterwards. Texas Chainsaw Massacre style.
Okay, Donner.
But that's what that's what I really think about. I think too, something I was actually just writing about earlier today was there was a period in my life where I really thought I would always end up living my adult life in Rensselaer, where I grew up in Indiana. And I think that to me is also what I would consider all American. Like you might go out and
But like
go
going
to a
back to
big
where your
city.
family is.
Yes, but you go back to where it is. You lay down your like those are where your roots are. You lay that down. You come back and then you just build the rest of your life there. And so all American to me means that essentially you can grow, but in some ways you don't grow. So it's really interesting. I don't know. I think I'm still trying to figure it out. Like the term makes me instantly think of sports because you have like in high school and college, you have all American athletes. Like that's like a thing, like a accolade that you can achieve. And so I think about that. But yeah, I just feel like the town that I grew up in really just screams America to me when I think about what America is. So
I think of 4th of July too. A nice big picnic.
Yeah.
On 4th of July.
I mean, that's
the
a
big
big
summer cookout.
Fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Like the county fair, lemon shake up, elephant ear, like that kind
Funnel
of thing.
cakes and corn dogs, baby.
You know, 4-H, like Boy Scouts too, you know, all these different things that you do in that rural area. Those are the activities that you have available to you. Farming, like you go out and you get in the tractor and you work the fields in the summers, pick up rocks, bale hay, do all these kinds of things. Like that's what I think of when I think about all America or all American.
I was gonna say, did you do that?
I rode in the tractor a couple times. Picked up rocks once. Terrible. But my family wasn't a farm family, so I like worked in a restaurant. I was a host and a busser, so that's what I did. When my friends were working in the fields, I was working inside. Those ideas come from my parents and just the community that I grew up in. You know, like that's what it was. And it wasn't so much that I defined all American or what being American meant, so much as it was defined for me by this community. And I never questioned what that was. Like, if I had to guess, or actually I know, going back to 2000 when George W. Bush was running for president, like that whole town was gung-ho about it. And that was my first real experience with an election. I was 10 years old, but we were talking about that in school for some reason. I don't know what am I, first grade, kindergarten? I don't know when you go to school, what ages that you're in, what grades you're in at what ages. But I remember vividly that.
I can also say definitively you weren't 10 years old in kindergarten.
Okay, I didn't think so. I have no idea. But that's like it was just so ingrained in every place that you went in the town that I was in. So no matter where I went, it felt like that's what America was. And when you would go to like somewhere like a Maryville or like a Chicago, I guess I will say Chicago is probably a better example. People don't know where Maryville is. When you go to like Chicago, that felt it didn't feel un-American, but it did not feel like what I thought it meant to be American. You know, like go to like a place that would generally be considered more liberal. That's really not what I thought it meant to be American. Like it was very conservative, you know, like we would always make the joke, like you want to be a Republican because you don't want to be an ass because the donkey is the symbol of the Democratic Party. Like seriously, that's what that was the joke. And that's what we talked about. And like, that's what it felt like. And that's what I always thought it meant to be American. And then when I went to college, it changed a little bit. You know, I became more liberal. I was definitely felt like I didn't really align with conservative values. And so the dynamic and the definition shifted a little bit, but I was still drawn home. And so really like that was always and I did still feel like I was patriotic in a sense. Like I felt like I liked the country, even if I didn't care for a lot of the history of the country. And I was learning more about what that history meant. Like home was always a thing that drew me back. And that felt to me very American. Like for me, if I was going to define it at that time, that's what it would be. And I think that was just because of the influences I had around me growing up, like my parents, my family, my friends,
It brings up an interesting point, which we don't have anyone to ask because it's the three of us. All three of us have been raised in the Midwest. Indiana, Dallas, or Texas, and Oklahoma. I wonder if the word all-American for somebody who was raised in California, in Los Angeles or something, has a completely different view on that word.
Oh,
I
it's
take
definitely
offense
got to be
to
different.
being raised in the Midwest.
I was going to say that. I think Texas is south.
Sorry, the middle of the country.
That's fair.
How about that?
It's mid-south.
Okay.
I think it's got to be, and especially like you brought up, like for Allison, like a child of immigrants, but for an immigrant family, like what it means to be all American, I would assume it was different. However, I guess I could see the reality, I could see it being defined for them in the way it was defined for me, like depending on where you end up, even if you ended up on the coast somewhere. Yeah,
yeah, and that might be, and I'm just guessing here, and again, don't take this as the actual reason, but I'm wondering if maybe for them all American means like capitalism, trying to get a really good job, make money, live in a big city.
Well, that's why I asked you about the American dream, because I actually wanted to say, like, that's what I was always taught, like, you would go after. Like, that's what the goal was quote unquote the American dream, like, which was you have a house. Yes, 2 kids, a house, you own a car, you have a yard and a fence, you have a good job. Your wife probably doesn't have a job.
Tire swing where you throw the ball through.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you raise your kids how you hope you want them to be raised, and then
no. You raise them the right way.
The right way, and you go to church every
everybody
Sunday.
Knows
what
that means.
And again, that's what the pull home was. Why I think for a long time I felt like I was always going to end up in Rensselaer, because again, I had even when I got to college, like I still had this idea in the back of my head that like I was supposed to end up back there. Like that was always the goal.
See, I didn't have that feeling. I actually, when I moved to Colorado from Oklahoma specifically to get away from Oklahoma, like I didn't even apply for an in-state school. I wanted to go explore. I wanted to see bigger cities, bigger towns, diversity, I think. And so that's what brought me actually to Colorado. And actually, I wanted to ski. So let me let me throw that one in there too. Let me throw that in there too. I don't want to be completely, You're
like, I heard the food was good in Colorado.
But you see, that's what's interesting.
I had a Denver omelet at the IHOP, and I was like, all right, that seems like a cool place to go.
But see, that's what's interesting to me, because my experience was the opposite. Like, I didn't want to leave. Like, as much as I was like, I don't want to go to the same college all my friends are going, because I'm like, I'm going to be different in that way. Like, I still transferred back. I went to one college that I felt like not everybody went to, and I transferred after a semester. But I felt like I was uncomfortable with the idea of going anywhere else. And like, even when I lived in San Diego, I was only there for a year, and I still came back to Indiana. There was all these places that I could have went, and I never did, because I think it was just this idea of like living up to this, whatever I was supposed to be for my family was always over me. And I felt like I always had to do right by them. And like just the societal pressure to succeed in the right way, whatever the right way is. Like I felt uncomfortable in like trying to explore anything, even though I would go out and do it, because I had a level of privilege that not a lot of people had to be able to do some of the things that I did. Like I would just, if it got tough or something like happened that made me feel like, oh, I got to go, like I would always come back. And so, I lament that a little bit. Some of the lost things that I could have explored. Like I wished I had that resolved, Nathan. Like when I was leaving for college, I was like, man, I gotta be like where it's in state that works best. Like it's not too far, that's close enough, but it was a little bit different. And even then, I left that and came back to what was the most familiar for me. So I think it's just really interesting how we develop that.
I'm interested to hear KJ now.
Yeah, no, for me, it's interesting hearing your stories, because I think my upbringing was so Christian that I understood America as like, this is the culture we're trying to change. This is, like in some ways. And in other ways, it was like, it wasn't like, I don't feel like my upbringing was like, in my memory, I don't feel like it was super Christian nationalist, if that makes sense. We're like, oh yeah, America's a Christian nation and we're blessed by God. Like, I don't know that necessarily any of the key figures in my life were like storm the Capitol level Christian nationalists.
Sweet
I
Lord.
mean,
Good. for
legitimately, but like there are probably people in my life who like are that level Christian nationalist,
Sure.
just given where I live. But so I always felt like I understood America as, well, this is how we don't want to be. America, teenagers having sex everywhere, but God wants you to be pure, like that kind of thing. Or like in America, like the divorce rate is 50%, but God wants you to like stay married, all of that stuff. So there's always this, like, for me, this understanding of what it meant to be American as like against what it meant to be Christian, and how like we were supposed to be like not of this world, and we were supposed to be, like different, set apart, whatever, all this stuff. But at the same time, like that does give me, like, when I think all American, I think Remember the Titans. Just like
Yeah.
that sums up pretty much everything for me. And I was also in theater, and so like doing the musical Bye Bye Birdie also really gave me a sense of like, because it, like, Conrad Birdie is kind of like a facsimile for Elvis Presley, and there's like one song that I was in the chorus of, and he's like, he's a fine, upstanding, healthy, normal, patriotic American boy. You know what I mean? Like there's just like a very clear sense of like America in the 50s, which obviously in the culture, like in the cultural creative arts of that time, and the things that are said at that time are all obviously going to be white centric. So it was just like, it was white by default. And like when Trump and other people talk about Make America Great Again, like that's what I thought America was. That's what I thought it was to be American. Even I think in some ways, I mean, I don't remember all the words, but like you get even the assimilation narrative in West Side Story with like this super fun dance number where all the Puerto Ricans are like, I want to be in America. I want to be an American, like, and like the others are like, well, I want to go back to San Juan. And everybody's like, they're all coming here to America, So even like in that sense, obviously written by white people and all that stuff, but like there's still that sense of like, yeah, being American's the best. And so like, for me, my sense of all American is really dominated by like media and culture and taking all of that in. And so I think like to what all of you have named, I don't know that I have anything to add necessarily, but I just had like this very strong sense of like, this is what it meant. And then for me growing up, it was like, well, what does it mean to be Texan? And I think that was the other big thing that I had to wrestle with. And I was like, I was like, I'm never going to be a cowboy, but I want to have like cowboy morals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to work hard and take care of my family. If anyone comes in here, I'm gonna fight to defend my family, protect my turf, and all that. Just like whatever, like any of that, like super masculine, whatever. And there was no room for any type of like more feminine expression of yourself. But that's who I am naturally. Like I have a more feminine self-expression than most men. So like I get that. But like, so there's also like, so that's, I think generally like my sense of what it means to be American is skewed by the eyes of like, well, this is who we don't want you to be in a church world. And I also like had the really unique privilege of being able to travel to a lot of different countries and a lot of different continents by 16. And I think that was pretty eye-opening. Like I was watching Trevor Noah, like his first stand-up with my wife. And he said like, I hope that all of you go to a different country where you don't speak the language. It's an incredible experience. Because without saying as much, it's like, it makes you feel so small and insignificant. And you learn that like other people are great too. And like there are other ways of life. Like it just like forces you to expand your horizon or forces you to like retreat back into yourself. Right. But I think like if you go and you experience that, then like it really does change who you are. So on top of being able to travel, we also had like a lot of international students come and stay with us, and like being able to like, I had a pretty cosmopolitan worldview. So I think that my sense of what it meant to be American was shaped by culture. It was shaped by like other people's ideas. I don't know that anyone necessarily gave me a strong sense of that. It was just shaped by like, well, here's how we perceive America to be in culture. Here's how we perceive America to be from the lens of like the church. Here's how we perceive America to be from the lens of like my international Korean friends or my international German friends or my international like Colombian friends or, whatever that looked like. So it was always like from some really unique perspectives, as opposed to just like all the white people in my life just were like, yeah, this is what it means to do that, you know? And it's funny that you bring up George Bush, because like for me, it was like, oh yeah, it's cool because he's from Texas and
Sure.
that's cool, you know? So yeah, so it was just like, that was like but I felt like, oh yeah, America. And then 2001, September 11th happens. And then I really get a sense of like,
Yeah.
I'm proud to be an American. Right. And then I'm like, flash forward 10 years. And I'm like, I don't love this at all, you know? So that's like, I guess quickly where it was and where I kind of am now, for what it means to be what I think of as all American, like the prototypical. And I remember, we'll add this too, because my sense of being American and like fitting in was so dominated by essentially just remember the Titans. I was so excited to be on the football team and to have lettered and like done that, even though it was a small Christian school and whatever, like they weren't saying no to anyone because I literally needed bodies. But like I could say, like for a year, I played varsity football in high school. Right. Yeah. And my wife was a cheerleader. So like for a minute, like I was the football player dating a cheerleader. And that was really important to me, even though at the time when we started dating, I wasn't actually playing football anymore. But like that was so important to me because it felt like I had done some like high school version of the American dream, you know,
right.
Like whatever that level of achieving that is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel I was the exact same way. Like being involved in sports was like the thing I had to do. And I think what's really interesting is that, you know, I felt like I really leaned into what it meant to be All-American by participating in sports. I was a 3-sport athlete every single year. Like I was always involved in something. But this other part of me that I would consider kind of like you talked about, you know, just operating in like expressing yourself in a more like feminine way, was that I was deeply emotional all the time in a way that really was counter to like how my parents acted or like what I learned about emotions, especially as a man. Like as a male person, you don't show your emotions. You don't be sensitive. Like don't cry. I was doing all that stuff all the time. And that was the one thing that I always pushed back on and like held as my own. It wasn't emotional intelligence. I was definitely probably very problematic and harmful in the way that I expressed my emotions a lot. But I would, when people would tell me to like, oh, don't cry or whatever, like I would still do it. And like when I think about my experience of like being American, like I think at the end of the day, it wasn't about being American. It was about being accepted in any form. Like that's why I played sports in the way that I did. Like that's why I pursued everything that I wanted to pursue, was because I felt this was the way that people around me will accept me. And I think my biggest fear was that everyone was going to leave me, even though I couldn't articulate that's what I was afraid of. Like that was what my fear was growing up. Even going into college, was that I would lose my best friends. I would lose this group if I dare venture off and do anything different, anything for myself. It felt like I never did anything for me. It was always to the benefit or to please another person in my life because I felt like I would lose them. And to even try to articulate that would to be claiming not to be American, essentially.
Yeah.
Because nobody would understand. At least I felt like nobody could understand that because I don't think I understood it at that time. So,
well, but that's like the adoptee, one of the common adoptee perspectives is like, we've already, like we're in this new place and we feel this strong sense of not belonging. So we're going to do everything you can to make sure that you belong. That's probably why dating Sarah in high school, the cheerleader, having been a football player, I was like, that's why it felt like such an arrival, because like I was like, this is like, no one can say I'm not I'm not doing it. I'm not like fitting in, essentially, even though I didn't think of it as fitting in, but what I did think of it as was fitting the prototype in my mind of what it meant to be all-American. You know, like in some ways, high school KJ had arrived at that moment, you know,
accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. Because like that was, and that's why I think talking about the prototype of what it means to be all-American is so important, because like on some level, and that's not even to talk about like the gender dynamic of that, right? But on some level, like that's part of, and I think that's part of what I think how adoptees can so often navigate. The other tack of it being like, well, just fuck everything and just like reject all of it, right? And just be like, because you're like, well, I was already rejected, so I'm just going to forge my own path. And then and I think that those are like the two maybe common narratives, with a lot of gray space for personal expression and things. But I think that so it just is, I think, important to highlight like this prototype that we were working with when we were growing up, where it comes from and how we, the three of us, have navigated trying to fit in, reject, move away from, alter, ourselves according to like maybe that earliest prototype that we were given.
Yeah. I think that's why I think it's really hard for me to answer like who taught me how to be Asian. Like, because I so deeply rejected being Asian that even when I would watch film, watch TV, whatever it was, I couldn't relate. And so I wasn't learning how to internalize this culture or this identity. I was like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cool. Jet Li's doing something cool. Jet Li's in a movie with DMX. That's dope. Like, I'm like, but it wasn't about like being Asian. If anything, it like made me uncomfortable to even think about it in that way. And so like, again, it would be, having to go on this journey to really even start to think about myself in a way that ran just counter to how I'd always thought about myself. And so, like, I don't know, like, to answer that other part of the question is like, I don't know who taught me to be Asian truly. Like, if anything, I learned from you both. I learned from the adoptee community who've developed their own definition of what it means to be Asian. And that's really where I feel like I'm coming in now, is like, I want to define what that means. Korean American Story just posted a short video of an interview with a Korean adoptee. That's what he talked about, was like, I want to define it for myself, what it means to be Korean, because all the definitions that were presented to me didn't fit the experience that I had.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said about, seeing representation in the media, do you think that helped at all? Other than you saying it's cool, do you think the more you saw Asians represented, like Jet Li, Jackie Chan, I know it's the stereotypic Asians, but then moving on to like Justin, Lin and things like that, did that make you feel more Asian? Or
I'm gonna be honest, for me, I don't think that it did.
You don't think it did? Okay.
I never even I'll say even up to like being 29. Like, I never, when I see an Asian person on screen, I was not thinking about representation, because I really didn't think about myself as Asian. I honestly, like, as much as I moved to a more liberal idea of who I wanted to be, and like had more liberal ideas about gender and about race, and like understood like Black Lives Matter, and understood that it's perfectly normal and totally fine to be trans or queer, and like I can support those communities, and like everything that we did to Indigenous people here was horrible and wrong, and we need to be held accountable for that. I never once, I don't think, ever thought about what it meant to be Asian, and that there was any history about what Asian America was. I never thought about. I honestly can't even think of it right now. Like, I don't think ever thought about that. No matter what I saw on TV, no matter what I heard from other people who might share, no matter even the Asian people that I met or worked with. Like, if I was Asian, it was because I was joking about it. And I was just joking about it because that made the other people around me feel comfortable. I never wanted to explore it, because every time I had to talk about being Asian, I had to talk about being adopted. Mm-hmm. And I honestly just hated talking about that. Like, when I worked as a bartender, every time on a lunch shift, there'd be like 4 people. They would ask me, what's your ethnicity? And I would tell them, and I would be like, I was adopted though, and I grew up in Indiana. And then they would ask me all these questions, and like, I'm just like, that's what it meant to be Asian. It was to be adopted and to have to tell everybody, to explain to everyone every single time that what my story was. And I hated to do that.
Yeah.
Did I tell you I was also a bartender, but it was owned by a Korean?
By who?
A Korean.
Nice.
A Korean couple. But the only reason they hired me is because I had computer background, and he wanted to ask me some questions.
That's hilarious.
Yes, I do remember that story. Yeah. Yeah. Patrick, it sounds like you were really coming up against like your own like imposter syndrome with being Asian.
100%.
And like especially having people ask you like, oh, where are you from? You'd be like, oh no, but I want to move on. Then you said I'm adopted. And then we're like, oh, tell me more about that. And you're like, that's literally the part of the story that I hate the most. Like, because I don't want to get into that shit. I just want to give you your drink and then you tip me and then maybe we have a good time.
I feel like
let's talk about basketball.
I never learned that if I offered that information up, that was
People
the wrong
like,
answer.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because then they would want to. I was hoping that would preempt any questioning. Like, okay, you won't ask me about this every single time they ask me about it.
Yeah.
So KJ,
yo,
what your turn. What has helped define being Asian or Asian American for you?
In the 90s, and we talk about this in a future interview that'll come out later a little bit, but in the 90s, like Chinese stuff was everywhere. And my parents, and I've said this before, my parents always celebrated my ethnic Koreanness. And so I was always cool with being Korean. Obviously, I could look at a map and see that it was on the continent of Asia, and like plenty of people told me I was Asian. So I was like, okay, cool. And so I just was grasping for anything. So a lot of my early Asianness came from like Chinese culture, from like Chinese-ness in American pop culture. So it was Jackie Chan Adventures. It was Rush Hour. It was like early days Fast and Furious movies. It was Jet Li. It was kind of Bruce Lee, but that was like not right in my timeline. But then so like reading Interior Chinatown, like that really deeply resonates with me because like he was like, oh yeah, like the conceit of the show was like, you're just a Chinese person, Asian person, like one day you'll work up to Kung Fu guy, and that's the highest that we can go. But to do that, you have to be like, here's like Asian shopkeeper, here is like the grocery man, here's like Asian guy who dies in gruesome death number 1. Here, like, so you just kind of move your way up, and it's a really good book. But like all of those like kind of prototypical roles of an Asian American, certainly Chinese American in like that 90s era, that was very like top of mind for me. So like Kung Fu guy just deeply resonated with me. I was like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to grow up to be Kung Fu guy because that's who I want to be. That's all I can be as an Asian. Like that was like, we talk about like high school KJ, like the pinnacle of all Americanness was high school, like football, dating high school cheerleader. Right. But like the pinnacle of Asian Americanness in high school was like, I guess Kung Fu guy.
Did you take Kung Fu or martial arts?
I tried to once and it didn't really take. And I was like, well, what if my hand breaks? Because it looks the way it does. So
Patrick, did you?
Yeah, I was in karate for like 2-3 years, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Taught by a white man. So
I was going to say most of my like
fairly problematic, but
most of my martial arts sense came from The Last Samurai featuring Tom Cruise. So that's like where my like, oh, the way of the warrior. Yeah. Bushido. Yeah. Thank you, Tom Cruise, for telling me about those things. So yeah, it was just like, but that was important to me, but that was the pinnacle because I also wasn't cool enough to be on early days YouTube. So like a lot of like the Asian YouTube stuff I wasn't really proud of, but I was weirdly in, and this is the third space, like I was in the AIM chat rooms and was aware of like AZN culture. And I didn't really know that was a thing because I was still too young to really get culture just like as a concept. But I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's, I can feel like a part of this. And then like many years later found out that like totally was a thing. I was like, yeah, Asians, and like you got like the Asian culture, you got like the fast cars, but they're always imports and the tuners and they're like, all that stuff. So it was like, yeah. So like a lot of what I learned about Asianness and I think Asian Americanness was kind of that like LA version of Asian plus like Latino culture that just kind of blends in together as you're not white and you're not black. So I guess this is the third space that you occupy. And then later in life, more present day, like South Korea has dominated so much that it's like, it's really interesting to think about what it means to be Korean in the current cultural climate.
I have a confession. So when I moved to California, I tried to fit into that category as well, and I got a Acura Integra Type R. I pimped it out with like lots of subwoofers and things like that.
This is probably pretty dope, to be honest.
You get any
I liked it. It was a
lighting?
nice car, but
like
with lighting, LED,
like a straight
and,
pipe exhaust.
Yeah, yep,
You're like-
all of that. And it's
some
interesting when I
frames.
think about that because that's like the opposite of
Where
kind
you
of
came from?
where I came from.
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Yeah.
trying to fit into like a different culture all of a sudden, like assimilation. Again, I'm assimilating into California culture, and so it's very. I don't know. I actually let me. Now that I think about it, did I actually buy that right before? No, I had a regular Integra in Colorado, so I had an
Yeah.
Integra
You're like, I
first,
gotta upgrade.
and then I bought the better. Yeah, the better.
I can't
Integra,
go with
but-
that Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I
you
mean, I
did.
will say that I've been dealing with some other stuff just recently, and to hear you both share your experiences with like engaging with Asianness in any way, like I've been really grappling with just like a lot of shame around my entire experience for a lot of different reasons, and like I don't know, I feel like it's just sitting here listening, I'm like it's bringing it up again, like, and I'm feeling like it's not like you are putting that on me, it's just I think about what I didn't do, all the things that I didn't do. And one, it makes me feel ashamed. And two, it just makes me angry again about everything that adoption I feel like it takes away from the person who experiences it. So not to bring it down and be a bummer, but after we're talking about your cool car stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I didn't even do that. Like I didn't even try to do that.
Well,
It's
you
just like,
went to San Diego.
But I was like, I wasn't hanging out with Asian people, like I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was just out there and I'm doing something different. Yeah.
I don't think that I mean, it sounds like Nathan had the most opportunity and time to interact with Asian and Asian American culture. But like for me, it was literally just like, yeah, I like Rush Hour, the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like I watched Jackie Chan Adventures growing up. And that was like, I mean, that's like as close to and really it was like my parents went to China on a mission trip and they brought me back a t-shirt. And so I wore that for Halloween so I could be Kung Fu guy for Halloween. That's it. That's all I got. And realistically, like the impact on my life is zero. But I still think like the point of that is certainly not to bring shame, but actually just to highlight like however we were, and I guess this is really part one of a longer series. But it was like who we were then and those mental models of like what it means to be American, what it means to be Asian, what it means to be Asian American. That's something that we say at the top of many of our shows. And I don't know that we've explicitly talked about that. And I think that it informs being able to articulate who we were and how we were reacting to those prototypes.
Right.
Tells us who we are now and gives us like choices to be, it gives us the option to be intentional about who we want to be moving forward. And I think especially this is in some ways what we're going to talk about at Beta LA. It's not like totally it, but like it's adjacent. But I think like the next kind of grand overarching arc of the show is really thinking about like now that we're almost at 150 episodes released. What does it mean for us to think clearly around and intentionally around like who do we want to become, and can we voice that, and can we like highlight that path so that if people want to go that way they can, and if we take a different path and we be like, oh, this is where we like, like we want this to be, we want this show to be a place where people can feel like wherever they are on their journey they're welcome, and if they're on like parallel paths or whatever, like they're welcome. Like it's just like we're here to talk about our lived experience and hopefully to encourage each other to grow and to really just be intentional about who they want to become next. The past is the past, and all it can tell us is how do we want to move forward.
Yeah. And to your point at the beginning of the show here, Patrick, not to be ageist, but I am 16 years older than you. And so for you to be experiencing the things that you're experiencing now and for the past 3 years brings me, not shame or but a
Nathan's
little
I was
bit
just
of
trying
envy.
to buy a stupid Acura.
Yeah, I know, right?
At your age, in this economy?
Exactly. So 16 years ago, when I was your age, I had nowhere near the knowledge that you have right now,
Sure.
or the awareness of
Nathan's going full dad
the
mode
current,
right now.
of the current stuff that we're talking about. So that's where I get envy. Is if I had started this journey 13 to 16 years ago, I would feel much, I don't know, just more enlightened. And I don't envy me just because I did this so long ago and had
Because he played tennis and bought
car.
an Acura.
Right. Well, it's like you you went for it in a way. And like, that's the thing. Like that's what the shame is. It's like, I didn't even try to go for it. Like I was so afraid
but
to do that.
16 years ago, you were 16.
But still, like I didn't even try. And then, it's interesting. I appreciate you saying that, because I also say that to younger adoptees who I come into contact with, is just like, if I were asking these questions, having these conversations when I was your age, man, how far along would I be now? How much more enlightened would I be about who I am and, what I want to do?
I don't even have to die. I'm already at Nirvana.
Right? Exactly. But I totally agree, KJ. I think you said it really beautifully. Like if we can be intentional about who we want to be and how we get there, and to be able to reflect intentionally on who we were and how we got to that point and to begin with, I think is really important. And, I'm glad to be able to do the show with you both and to be able to have these conversations, and hopefully somebody gets something out of that as they move along their journey.
Yeah, 100%. And now it's our turn to be intentional moving to snack time.
All right.
Yes.
We can do that. All right.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Snacky snack.
Banquet Heyo!
Banquet Heyo!
Welcome back to the Janchi Show Banquet Hour.
Banquet Hour. Nice.
I think we found a tagline that sticks for this portion.
Banquet time. It's the banquet time. Yes. So today we are trying something that I think Patrick, I think all of us are going to like, but I know Patrick specifically because he loves chocolate.
Ooh, that's what
deep. I love the deep chocolate.
That's this one is called Deep Chocolate, Deep Choco is what it says on the front of it. And it is, I don't know. It looked interesting. It's made, we figured out that this is pronounced Haitai, right?
Oh, yeah, it is
Haitai.
pronounced
Not
Haitai. I was
Haitai.
literally about to say Haitai, but yeah.
I was too. And then I
Haitai.
remembered I corrected myself.
There you go.
And it's Haitai. It's a chocolate, delicious and premium cookie with a perfect butter taste. Deep Choco.
Did you know?
Smile package.
I appreciate that you sent me 4. I don't know, KJ, if you got 4. But is it because of the amount that come in the package, or is it because you're like, these things are tiny when you felt it?
Yeah, it had a lot, and like 18 in here, and so I kept 4 in case I was going to send it to a guest, which I did send some to Penelope actually. But so I just wanted to make sure you guys had a plentiful sampling and enough to share.
This
I'm
good.
appreciative of that.
Yes.
Oh, this is the smile package too.
Oh yeah, smile packaging.
KJ is smiling as he puts that in his mouth.
Oh yeah, it looks. And honestly, and I don't want to ruin before I eat it, but it almost reminds me of a Girl Scout cookie just by looking at it, kind of. So
This is good.
Is melted a little bit.
So yeah, butter ding. Deep
Oh
Choco.
man, that smells so good.
It's got a little bit of coconut, I think.
Yeah,
which is really a nice finish.
I don't like coconut. I'm not gonna lie.
Do you not?
No.
Okay.
I don't think
This
it
is
has
pretty good,
coconut
though.
in it.
It hits like coconut to me.
I can see where you're getting that from.
Yeah, I can see where it doesn't have any in it, but it. Oh yeah. Okay, I take my comment back. It's
Sarah,
not like a Girl Scout cookie.
Sarah has entered the chat.
Nice.
She
wants
heard
this.
deep chocolate.
She was like,
Deep
"Oh, you eating a
Choco.
chocolate cookie? I would like this." So you can
it reminds me-
off screen. But,
Okay, it reminds me of the cookies that you get in those metal
she
tins.
gives a thumbs up.
Yes.
Out of 5?
Yes.
Yes,
5 out of 5.
Circular. 5 out of 5.
Oh,
Circle.
yes.
Circle metal tins.
Yeah, the circle
this is
metal
like the
tin
cookie that's
thing.
inside that.
Like the shortbread cookie with
Man,
like the
now I
chocolate
want
on
some
it.
of those.
Yep, 100%. This is great.
And as long as it's not sewing equipment, it's
I Don't love the packaging. It's still kind of hard to open, but otherwise, it's all. It tastes kind of like a Milano cookie. Is that right?
Kind of. Yeah, a little more buttery. Good quality chocolate and good quality butter cookie. Good job, Haitai.
Good job, Haitai.
I have nothing more to say because it's that simple.
Anything interesting else? Anything else interesting on the package?
I
thought it was pretty easy.
See anything.
It's a little difficult to open, actually.
It's like the initial tear is good, but then beyond that point, it gets
halfway. It's
very annoying.
Tough. Okay, so this is one thing that I'm a little confused on. Is the calorie content?
Okay, yeah.
Serving size 1/18. So one cookie. Take a guess how many calories one cookie has.
How many?
300.
According to this, so one cookie, 525 calories.
No. Shut up.
What?
I don't believe that.
Shut the front door.
Oh, can you see?
Wow.
How? I feel like we've had full bags of snacks. That's
telling me I just ate 1,500 calories.
You ate 3.
Heck yeah, I did. They're so snackable.
They are so sad. This is a tiny snack.
How is this 525? Send me a picture of that.
63 grams of carbohydrates, 16 grams of saturated fat, 5 grams of protein. Oh, man.
Now I have regrets.
Now I have regrets.
I definitely wish I had known that a little
before you ate 3 cookies.
Yeah,
I can't even
run a couple
believe
laps.
that.
I know. I was a little surprised at that when I at first I thought it meant the whole package. Like, oh, okay, the whole package of this, the whole box is 525 calories. But it says 1/18 of the pack is a serving.
I gotta look this up.
Approximately 100 grams.
103 grams.
Yeah, is 525 calories.
And this website is too Korean.
This website, yeah. Are you on the New World Mart?
Yeah.
Korean Mart with a C?
Yeah.
I am very surprised if that is the case.
This is not good content. We're gonna figure this out off air.
Yes.
This is great content.
Okay, so now out of 5.
That's the clip. Is just us on our computers trying to figure out what the calorie count is.
Oh no!
Did you figure it out?
Nutrition facts are 10 per serving. A serving is 10 grams. What? No, this is huge. All right. We should get into ratings.
I've only ate 2, so I feel not as bad.
Because I've eaten my entire caloric daily intake.
Apparently, I just ate a whole stick of butter. I still give it a 5 out of 5.
It's like a half stick of butter. Yeah, I'm going to give one individual cookie a 5 out of 5. Any more than that, rating starts to plummet because it's just really bad for you.
I'm going to
feel bad yet.
I don't know. I feel like I should give this I was going to be a 5 out of 5, but I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
Hey, I want to hear what Sarah's revised rating is.
I don't know if I can tell her in good conscience.
Yeah, she might go into shock. Sorry. I just poisoned you, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Here's what I'm giving it a 3. It's amazing. It's so good. I would be so pissed off if it was Thanksgiving and amongst all the desserts.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a serving of pie. There's like a serving of another pie, whatever. A serving of sweet potatoes, whatever. There's
ladle of gravy.
Single butter ring deep choco cookie. And be like, well, these are all the caloric equivalents. I'm like, I'm so angry right now.
I agree.
So Haitai, this is too American.
This is a great snack for this episode.
This is an all-American dessert, and that's rude. I was expecting some Korean-ass cookies. So, yeah, It was, I guess, for like, what's the Korean equivalent of this? Like a fifth. So 1/5 of this gets 5 out of 5, but the total thing, 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I got to go for like a walk now or something.
Yeah, I need to go. Yeah, go run a mile.
Yeah,
and I've been not eating after 9, except for when we've done the show, and I've been really good about it this week.
1,000 calories.
And now I'm like, I gotta like do some push-ups or something.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
I'm gonna research this. This I don't know.
Nathan is trying to find any way to say
because
that this is not correct.
Yeah, because it says 155 kilocalorie on the
Dude.
package. So
Do any of you have a food scale? Can you weigh a cookie?
Because that would make more sense if it was 155 calories per cookie. That sounds reasonable.
I don't know.
Our lives have been ruined by this.
Do you remember that episode? I don't remember if it's come out yet or if it's gonna come out. But Nathan's like, he doesn't care. They don't care about the nutrition facts. I was like, oh, I deeply care.
Was that on Lana's episode?
I don't remember which one, but
that's funny.
Yeah, This is me deeply caring about the nutrition facts.
Maybe that's why it's called the deep choco.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Oh my! It's deeply depressing when we find out the truth of this snack,
but deeply delicious.
If you want to check in on us as we go through this caloric intake, you can do so collectively at Janchi Show on all the social media platforms. If you want to get direct about it, send us an email, janchishow@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail, 972-677-8867. If you want to support us and buy us snacks that aren't so calorically based, you can go to our website, janchishow.com, and buy us a coffee. You can support us in a number of different ways, buy us some merch, and then we can buy lesser calorie snacks, which is something I'm actually very interested in at the moment. What else do we got? Oh, if you want to leave us a rating or review on wherever you're listening to or taking this in at, we would greatly appreciate that as well. And I think that's it for our total stuff. Oh, if you're going to be in LA this weekend for BioThe LA, we can't wait to see you as well. Very excited for that. Yeah. Shout out to AKSF and all the other AKA West Coast organizations who are bringing us out. We appreciate that. If you want to check in on us individually, at Patrick in the World, wherever I want to be found for myself, Patrick, I can't even, the calories have destroyed my brain.
It's going to his head.
Are actively slowing him down. I'm at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet, which is actually just going to be on my bed forever. I've gone full Garfield.
I am N Nowak on Instagram, Nathan Nowak on Facebook, and yes, that was a lot of butter.
But our energy has just plummeted. We are in deep depression.
Deep choco.
I'm very sad.
Nathan, were you about to say something?
I'm just saying it was pretty good. I was going to leave out my dad joke.
But it was pretty good.
It was delicious.
Okay. All right. Well, until next time, Banquet. Hey-o. I can't even mess that up, too. Oh, good Lord.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah, right now I'm okay, but I know in the morning I'm gonna be like
serious regrets.
I'm not gonna be happy in the morning. I know that for sure.
Yikes. Yeah.